Good day and welcome back to Elementary 72 Gaming. Before I get into this video, I'd like to ask you all to please leave a like and comment on this video. And I would like you all to subscribe to this button and engage the Death Star's main weapon. Now, let's talk exactly what I mean. Now, for this video, I'm actually going to be talking about the interdiction spheres and capsular outposts, and I'm going to be combining them as a single topic for this one video. Now, in consideration of the fact that a lot of these items have dropped today and the fact that they are making such a big motion around the map, even though the prices have started to fall rapidly at the moment, if you were smart and wise about it right in the start, let's say for example you managed to capture 5 or 6 of these interdiction spheres in that first 10 hours, if you sold them instead of keeping them, you actually could have made more profit and actually built up capsule outposts. Because originally this MK7 was 500 million. Let me just open it quickly. It was 500 million a piece. And if you had, like I was saying, a few of them, maybe even 5, that's 2.5 billion that you could have made. Right now it's at half the value. As you can see, it's dropping in value at the moment. And if it continues at this rate, by tomorrow it's going to be just over 150 million. I don't think it's going to drop below that mark because that's going to be about the value of the system. It might actually retain its 250 million value depending on how players use it. Now, considering all of this, yeah, exactly what Corps could have done. And I know that I made this mistake earlier. If you actually went about collecting all of these and selling it as a corp for the first 2 days, you could have made billions quickly. And I'm not even joking about the fact that it's billions. You could have made up to uh, 50, 60 billion if your entire corp listened to you and brought in all interdiction spheres and only interdiction spheres. And if you only said it's for the first 2 days, I'm sure most of your players would be fine with it. And as the rest of the days go by, you said you're going to buy it from them at a reasonable price for the market value. So, with all of this being said, if you had done that in the start and sold it all up like a lot of these players had, you would have made massive amounts of ISK in the billions. 5, 10, 20 billion is a easy mark to reach. And if you were at the 20 and 30 billion marks already by the start of today, you had the opportunity to build several capsule outposts. Now, building several capsule outposts means that you will have the ability to go and set them up. And in consideration with everything that's going on at the moment, if you set up your bubble after, if you go and you build up your stations, let's say for example you have 5 or 6 stations and you've purchased them and you got them ready and they're ready to go. The next thing you can do, sorry about that, the next thing that you could do is you could actually go about with your, sorry, interdictor, yeah, this is the one. If I'm correct, the price has gone up on the interdictors at the moment. No, it's still cheap. Sorry about that, I'm getting carried away. If you had gone about and sold them and got everything ready, in the next 2 or 3 days, as I said, the price is about to come down heavily. Had you sold your interdiction spheres for, let's say, 500 million in that first 10 hours, and let's say you even had 10, there was 5 billion that you made. And let's say that you wait till tomorrow when it's, let's say even if it stays at 250 million a piece, if you manage to get another 10 in that time and sell it for 250 million again within that next 10 hours, I'm saying that you're going to keep this up for 72 hours, you were going to make billions in this 3 days of this launch. And this isn't where the entire benefit comes in or ends. It only ends at the point where you finally stop. Sorry about that. I'm getting a little bit carried away myself. It only stops at the point where we reach the saturation of the market. That's like day 3, day 4, when a lot of people have already put items on the market. And this is when the value of the interdiction sphere will come down. Now, once the value starts to collapse and things start to become cheaper, whether you have excess number of interdiction spheres or whether you don't have makes no difference. This is the time for you to stockpile them. Stockpile 10 or 20 extras, build up your standard fleet, have two or three ready for each fleet member, and that's the basic thing that goes with it. You have up to a 10-day period to gather these for free. And in consideration that the first 3 days were super expensive and the remaining 7 days were going to be much cheaper, if you opted to build your fleet in the first three and then actually implement it during the last 7 days where you were going to sell, you actually were hurting your corp. And let me explain to you exactly why. If you sold in the first 3 days, your profit margins were large and you were making a massive profit. Once you passed the third day, you were actually making even bigger profit in consideration of where you were. And by the time you reached the 10th day, your profit was so much larger compared to the end result where the market was finally saturated. Now, let's reverse it around and say a corp actually built up in the start. You maximized your cost on build and you paid for it across the first 3 days. Then the price of your build began to look like it was more and more ridiculous for your first 3 days, and it became cheaper and cheaper for you to produce that same ship with the same build as you went up to the 10th day. And on the 10th day, it was more stable and easier to build without the hard push to get it in. Now, was there another way to get the interdiction spheres? Yes, there was. Wait for someone else to hold the interdictor camp. Now, what do I mean by an interdictor camp? Wait for someone to tell you there's a 10-man team with interdiction spheres. Run in with your battle cruisers and smash up the fleet. That's the way to do it. You only need 5 battle cruisers to beat those fleets because any of the interdiction ships that you can make are destroyers. And in consideration of firepower versus defense, you could just blast right through them and you had your win. So, yeah, that was the first thing that you could have done. Now, moving forward, the next thing that you could have done when you're going with all of this is all of that money that you could have made selling it in the first 3 days, you can take it and you can push it into your corpse builds. And when I say builds, I mean get your stations built up. Remember, the corps are going to need tons of stations coming into sovereignty, and have small teams made up around each station. Get 3-man teams together, get 4-man teams together, get them to go hide stations all over your territory. And even if there's 5 or 6 in one area, it's fine because the likeliness of all 6 or all of your stations being caught out while your entire fleet is moving around and doing funny things, making little maneuvers, letting players have fun setting up stations. They're going to set it up in weird places. They're going to set it up in the middle of the solar system. They're going to set it up next to gates. They're going to set it up away from gates. They're going to do everything and anything imaginable. And the more gutsy ones will do it right next to a gate because that's basically a permanent gate camp. You come in and immediately you're caught by the station. It's going to hit you with heavy DPS and it's also going to disrupt you if you're fitting on the right modules to that station. Obviously, you have to be able to defend that station, so dead end sectors are the best for this type of play. The next thing, which was a good idea when it came to this whole situation, is if you went through with building stations in the middle of sectors and so forth, and there being 3 or 4, when players came to attack, the station which was generally going to be attacked was generally going to be the one that they thought was there. The ones which are hidden in other locations in that same sector, like if you went ajar and you decided you were going to travel out a character for 5 or 6 days, you'll keep fleeting up and swapping with each other, and you'll move something like 150,000 kilometers out of the regular parts of the map. You off the regular solar system. Where your station is, nothing is there. And the moment you set up your gravity well and everything locks and anchors, nobody knew where your station was, and the only way to get there was the player character who was located next to the station or at the station. And that one character would have to have dedicated himself for 10 days just to get the station in the right place. And then that's how you were going to go for the play. And that's why I'm saying 3 or 4-man teams, so you can do this for 3 or 4 days, putting the stations in weird locations, absolutely unpredictable locations. And by the time everything is done and ready, coming up to sovereignty, you're going to have stations all over the places, citadels launched, everything is going to be in place, and you are going to have powerful corporations popping up everywhere. And that was one of the things that a smart corp could have done. Now, I'm not saying that you weren't smart to set up interdiction spheres. I'm just saying that you got caught up in the hype of the interdiction sphere, setting it up in the first few hours. It's called, what is it? Bias prejudice. You believe that you have to buy something in the start, and you only realize the mistake you've made at the later period. Example, someone is making the first of a car. You buy the first car, but you don't realize that you're buying it with all the flaws. And later, like 3 or 4 months later, the next iteration of the car comes out and it is superior to your car because it was cheaper to make, it didn't have the same flaws, everything was taken out of it that was negative, and you paid for it at a higher rate. And those are the things which happen and catch you off. It was a good ploy. I didn't actually catch on to it until I was, let's see, what is it, 24 hours into the entire um, event. So yeah, very well done to NetEase. They definitely pulled a fast one. I suspect a lot of teams are going to start pushing it up on the market, and let's see what happens. Let's see if anybody does pull off that massive maneuver to build 100 stations or something in a day. I suspect one or two corps might be able to do it. So let's see what happens, and I hope you all have a good day.